Good afternoon, everyone. Before we start, let's pray first. Let's bow our head and feel the presence of the Lord in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
So, good day, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about polymers. But before that, we will introduce you to the content of this presentation. So, these are the contents of our presentation. First is the classification of polymers, addition and condensation of polymerization, degree of polymerization, typical thermoplastics, structure property relationship in the thermoplastic, effect of temperature on thermoplastics, mechanical properties of thermoplastics, elastomers, rubbers, and thermosetting polymers, and also adhesives and polymer processing and recycling. So, after this presentation, these are the learning points we are going to have. So first one is we will understand how polymers are classified and formed through different polymerization process. And the next one is we will recognize how structure property relationship identify relationship influence polymer behavior. And next one is we will identify the key characteristics and performance differences of thermoplastics, elastomers, and thermosetting polymers. And lastly, we will learn the fundamentals of polymer processing, mechanical properties, and environmental considerations such as recycling. So, to officially start our presentation, I want you to try something. Raise your hand if you use any of this today. A plastic bottle, a cell phone, or a ball pen. Great. I can see that there are many hands that has been raised. Now, here's something interesting. Everything you just used is made of one amazing category of materials. And these are the polymers. And also, let me ask you one more question. What do you think your DNA, your clothes, and your lunch container all have in common? You can answer in the chat box. Yes, Mr. Villamore.
I think it's plastic.
Yes, they are made of plastics, but they are made specifically of polymers. Okay, whether it is natural or synthetic. And that's today we're going to explore what polymers are, where they came from, and how they are structured, and why they behave differently. So, we will now dig deeper the definition of polymers. So, the term polymer comes from the Greek word me, poly and meros. The poly, which means many, and meros meaning parts. So, in simple words, a polymer is a very large molecule that is made up of repeating units called monomers. So, can you imagine a polymer as long as a chain, and each monomer is one link in that chain? So, as you can see in the image presented, that there is a polymer that is being linked together. And now we will dig deeper to the classifications of polymers. Now, polymers can be classified by three: by their structure, by their source of origin, by their structure, and by their physical properties. Now, let's tackle first the classification of polymers based on their source of origin. The first one is the natural polymers. So these are the polymers that are found in nature, that is produced by plants, animals, or even our bodies. So the common examples of this are the proteins, like the collagen in our body, and the starch that is found in rice and potatoes. And also, as you can see in the image presented, that is a natural rubber. Okay, and we can see these natural rubbers from rubber trees. So who here has ever held a rubber band or eaten rice today? Okay, congratulations, because you've used a polymer, a natural polymer rather. So the next one is synthetic polymers. So these polymers are man-made, or that is made by human and produced in laboratories or factories. So the common examples of these polymers are polyethylene, that can be found in plastic bags, bottles, or anything that is plastic. And also the PVC, that is found in your very home. The pipes, the electrical insulation, and these are the plastics that we encounter every day. And lastly, we have semi-synthetic polymers. So these are the stored as natural but are chemically modified to enhance their properties. So many of us, the examples of these polymers, we may not have seen this in our everyday life, but these are the common examples. The movie films and the eyeglass frames. So the next classification is by their structure. So polymers do not have all the same arrangement of chains rather. So their structure strongly affects their properties. So the first classification by structure is linear polymers. So these polymers have a long continuous chain, straight and no branches. So the common examples are the high density polyethylene. And why and these polymers are usually strong and have high melting points because they pack closely. And the next one is the branch polymers. So these are kind of polymers that have side branches that is sticking out from the main chain. So the common examples are the low density polyethylene. So the branches prevent tight packing, which makes them more flexible and less dense. And lastly is the cross-linked polymers. And this kind of polymers have chains that are connected to each other, which forms a network. So the common examples of this are vulcanized rubber, as you can see in our tires, in our tires in cars. So these are the type of polymers that is cross-linked. And the next classification of polymers is by their physical properties. So this classification depends on how the polymer reacts to heat. So the first one is the thermoplastics. So this kind of polymers are softened when heated and can be reshaped multiple times. But their key feature is weak intermolecular forces, such as the water bottles, food containers that is plastic. And think about a plastic spoon. It can be melted when heated, and that is a type of polymer that is called thermoplastic. And the next one is the thermosets. And this kind of polymers undergo heated, which makes them hard and infusible. But the key feature of this polymers is it is irreversible cross-linking, which means we will be able to reshape them, or we will not be able to recycle them because it is permanent. And most of these polymers is once hardened, they cannot be melted or reshaped. And most examples of this are the epoxy resins and the electric switches as you can see in your homes. And lastly is the elastomers. And this kind of polymers are the rubber-like materials that can stretch and return to their original shape. And the key feature of this is the light cross-linking. And they can be stretched. That's why it is stretchable, it is elastic. And most examples of this are rubber tires and silicon bands. And if you think of these polymers, think of a rubber band. Stretch it and it bounces back. And next one is we will talk about the process of turning the monomers into a polymer. It is the polymerization. Next slide, please. So, a polymerization is a chemical process where small molecules called monomers join together to form a long chain or network of large molecule called polymers. So, in other words, polymerization is a process that that what makes polymers a polymer. Gets ra ba, no? So I will introduce the next reporter which he will report the types of polymerization. Please welcome Mr. Sean Villamor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rodrigo. So right now, let's talk about addition and condensation polymerization. So what is addition polymerization? So it is the process of repeated addition of monomers that causes double or triple bonds to form polymers. So this type of polymers is when small molecules called monomers, which have double or triple bonds, join together over and over to make a long chain called a polymer. Basically, it's like linking many small Lego pieces that can snap together into a long chain. So, for example, on the left side of the PPT, can you go back, please? Okay, thank you so much. So, on the left side of the PowerPoint, there's a diagram, ethene. So, the monomer is C2H4. It has double bond. And the polymerization is that many ethene molecules join together and the double bonds break so they can link up. And the result is polyethylene on the right side. So it is a long chain used in plastic bags and bottles. So basically, the double bond in each small molecule opens up and connects to the next one, forming a big chain. Next one, next slide, please. So here are some of the common addition polymers. So these are the example: polyethylene, polypropylene, polystyrene, PVC, Teflon, and orthon or acrylan. And uh, these are the example in its monomer, polymer, and their uses. Next slide, please. So, addition polymerization consists of three key stages. The first one is initiation. An initiator, often a free radical cation or uh, cation or anion. How do you pronounce that? Cation or cation? Yeah, cation.
I
Or
think
anion. It's
it's cat
cation.
ion and anion.
No? Okay. Sorry for that. So, no. Cation, I mean, it's like cathode and anode, right? Okay. So often a free radical, cation or anion, reacts with a monomer to create an active species capable of starting chain growth. So this stages is a chemical that starts the polymerization process. It reacts with a monomer and creates a reactive part that can connect to other monomers, allowing the polymer chain to grow longer. So think of it like lighting a match. The initiator is the spark, and the monomer are pieces of wood that keep catching fire one after another, making a long chain, or the polymer. Next slide, please. So the second one is propagation. So this step in addition polymerization where monomers are sequentially and rapidly added to a growing polymer chain. So this part of polymerization where the polymer chain keeps growing, monomers quickly join one after another to build the chain that has already started. So just think of it like adding more links to a chain. Once you have the first link, new links keep attaching really fast, making the chain longer and longer. Next slide, please. So lastly, termination. So the reaction stops when the two growing chains combine or disproportionate or when a chain reacts with an impurity. So termination is when the polymer chain stops growing. This can happen in two ways. First one, two growing chains join together. They form one bigger chain. And lastly, disproportionation. One chain gives something to another and both stop growing. Next slide, please. So these are the characteristics of addition polymerization. First one, produces high molecular weight polymers rapidly. Second one, requires monomers containing double or triple bonds. And lastly, no side products are formed. Next slide, please. So now let's talk about condensation polymerization. So it is a process that involves repeated condensation reactions between two different bifunctional or trifunctional monomers. So this polymerization is when two different kinds of small molecules join together over and over to make a long chain or polymer, and small molecule like water is released each time they connect. So the example for this is kanang sa ubos na diagram. Ang monomer kay 6 amino hexanoic acid, and it has two reactive ends, an amine group, NH2, and a carboxylic acid group, which is the COOH. So the process for this is the amine group of one molecule reacts with the carboxylic acid group of another molecule. Each time they react, they form a bond called an amide bond and release water, which is the H2O. And lastly, this reaction repeats over and over, linking many molecules into a long chain polymer called nylon 6, that on the right side. Next slide, please. Sorry about that. So these are the examples of condensation polymerization. So these are the examples and its monomer, polymer, structure, and their uses. Next slide, please. So the mechanism of condensation polymerization, unlike addition polymerization, any two reactive series species rather, monomer monomer, monomer oligomer, oligomer oligomer, can react at any time. High molecular weight polymers form only after many reaction steps. So in condensation polymerization, any reactive molecules can join. It's not just one monomer adding to a chain. For example, a monomer can react with another monomer. A monomer can react with a short chain, which is the oligomer. So two short chains can react with each other. Next slide, please. So these are the characteristics of condensation polymerization. It produces byproducts during polymer formation. Monomers must possess at least two functional groups. And lastly, formation of high molecular weight polymers is slower than in addition polymerization. Next slide, please. Uh, there you go. So these are the differences between addition and condensation polymerization. So in terms of byproduct, addition polymerization has none, while in condensation polymerization, it has small molecules eliminated. In monomers required, addition polymerization has unsaturated monomers, while in condensation, multifunctional monomers. In terms of mechanism, in addition, it is a chain growth, while in condensation, it is a step growth. In terms of rate of polymer formation, in addition, it is fast, while in condensation, it is slow. And their examples, in addition, uh, it has PE, PVC, and PS, while in condensation, it has nylon, PET, or and bakelite. Next slide, please. So right now, let's talk about the degree of polymerization. Next slide. So the degree of polymerization, or DP, is defined as the number of repeating units in a polymer chain. It is a key measure of polymer chain length and heavily influences physical and mechanical properties. So this is the number of small repeating units that make up a polymer chain. If a polymer has a high DP, it means the chain is long. If it has a low DP, the chain is short. So the length of the chain affects the polymer strength, flexibility, and other properties. So this is the standard formula for the degree of polymerization. So dp sub n, or x sub n, equals the molecular weight of polymer divided by the molecular weight of repeating unit. Next slide, please. So problem number one. A polyethylene sample has number average molecular weight n sub n equals to 280,000 gram per molecule. The repeat unit for polyethylene, CH2, has smaller mass, and repeat equals 14.8 0.03 grams per molecule. So find the number average degree of polymerization. So let's just use the standard formula. dPn equals the molecular number of polymerization over the molecular number of repeating units. So substitute the numbers, 280,000 gram per molecule divide by 14.03 gram per molecule, and we can have 19,957.23. So the interpretation for this is on average each polymer chain contains around 19,000 CH2 repeat units. Next slide please. So problem number 2, a polystyrene sample has Mn equals 200,000 gram per molecule and MW equals 500,000 gram per molecule. The repeat unit styrene C8H8 has M repeat equals 104.15 gram per molecule. So find the degree of polymerization in numbers and the degree of polymerization in weight and the polydispersity index or PDI. So uh, let's just write the standard formula, which is the degree of polymerization equals the molecular number or molecular weight of polymerization over the molecular number or molecular rate weight in repeating units. So in BP in number, we have 200,000 grams per molecule and divide by 104.15 gram per molecule, and we can have 1920. In weight, we have 500,000 gram per molecule divide by 104.15 gram per molecule, and we can have 4,800.77. So in getting the polydispersity index or PDI, let's just use this formula. So degree of polymerization in weight over the degree of polymerization in number. So 4,800.77 divided by 1,920, and we can have 2.5. So the interpretation for this is the average chain length differ depending on averaging method, PDI method. So PDI tells you how wide or spread out the sizes of the polymer chains are. Next slide, please. So in this problem, you have an island six sample with an average molecular weight of 250,000 gram per molecule. So what is the degree of polymerization for this polymer? So first, the initial step is to determine the molar mass. To find the molar mass of the repeating unit, you count how many atoms of each element, which are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, are in one repeat unit and multiply each by its atomic or molar mass. As you can see on the left side, there is another diagram showing the polymer chain. This is included to illustrate how we obtain the molar mass for the elements in the repeating unit. So for carbon, uh, as you can see, there is letter C sa kanang pa-zigzag na line na siya C sa center. So that's carbon. So let's count how many appear in the repeating unit. In the adipic acid portion, we have 6 carbon atoms. And in the hexamethylene diamine portion, we have 6 carbon atoms. So giving a total of 12. The atomic mass of carbon is 12.01 gram per molecule. For oxygen, there are only 2 atoms present, and the atomic mass is 15.999 gram per molecule. For nitrogen, there are also 2 atoms present, with an atomic mass of 14.006 grams per molecule. And for hydrogens, the lines above and below the carbon atoms in the line angle structure represents hydrogens. Kaya makita ninyo na line na kanang murag 1 sa taas ug sa ubos sa carbon, that is hydrogen. So this style is used to make the diagram easier to read, and the lines represents the bonds needed to satisfy carbon's four-bond rule. So if we count all of the hydrogen atoms, the total is 22. 8 from the adipic acid part, 12 from the hexamethylene diamine part, plus the two hydrogens attached to the nitrogen atoms. And the atomic mass of hydrogen is 1.0079 gram per molecule. So now, let's compute the molecular weight of the repeating unit. Let's just multiply the number of atoms of each element by its atomic mass, then add all the values together to get the total molar mass of the repeat unit. So 12 times 12.01, we have 144.12. 2, 2 times 15.999, we can have 31.998. And 2 times 14.006, we have 28.012. And for hydrogen, 22 times 1.0079, we have 22.1738. So if we add all the values together, we can have 226.30 gram per molecule. So to get the degree of polymerization, let's just write the standard formula. So molecular weights of polymers over molecular weight of repeating unit. And substitute the value 250,000 gram per molecule over 226.30 gram per molecule. And that gives you the answer 1,104.73. Next slide, please. So, these are the importance of the degree of polymerization. A higher degree of polymerization typically results in 1. Increased molecular weight. So, a higher degree of polymerization means the polymer chain is longer, so the polymer weighs more. Greater tensile strength. Longer chains make the material stronger and less likely to break when pulled. Next one is higher viscosity in the molten state. So when melted, long chains flow more slowly because they get tangled, making the polymer thicker or stickier. And lastly, better mechanical and thermal stability. Longer chains make the polymer more durable and able to withstand heat or stress without breaking. In short, the longer the polymer chains, the stronger, thicker, and more stable the material becomes. That's all for my report, and let's call Ms. Tong Ho to discuss the next topic. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Mr. Villamor. So good afternoon, everyone. Once again, I am Aliza Jean Tongko, and now we will discuss typical thermoplastics, which are a type of polymer widely used in our daily lives and in engineering application. So what is a thermoplastic? So as discussed by Mr. Rodrigo, a thermoplastic is a polymer that can be softened when heated, hardened when cooled, and reshaped multiple times without any chemical change. And it can be classified into two main categories based on their structure and complexity. So we have addition and complex thermoplastics. So first, let's start with the simpler ones, which is called addition thermoplastics. Addition thermoplastics are plastics made through a process called addition polymerization. In this process, small units called monomers connect one after another to form long chains without producing any byproducts because their structure is simple. So these plastics are easy to produce, easy to melt, and easy to shape. So to begin with, one of the most common addition thermoplastics is the polyethylene. It is most commonly used in plastic bags, food packaging, squeeze bottles, and wire or cable insulation. So makita jud na to siya adlaw-adlaw or atong magamit adlaw-adlaw. Next, we also have polyvinyl chloride or PVC. So muna itong makita sa mga pipes or pwede sad sa mga window frames, medical tubing, and sa mga cable insulations. Another important example is polypropylene or PP. It is commonly found sa mga food containers, as you can see in the picture. It is also used sa mga automotive parts, mga ropes, and mga living hinges. In addition, we also have polystyrene or PS. It is mostly used sa mga disposable utensils, mga disposable packaging, also sa mga CD cases, mga appliances sa atong balay, and sa mga foam packaging as atong makita sa picture. Next, we also have this polyacrylonitrile or PAN or PAN. This serves as a precursor for carbon fiber which is used in outdoor fabrics and filtration systems. Next, we also have this acrylic or PMMA, which this appears sa mga transparent panels, mga skylights. Also, makita sa din nato sa mga signs and aquariums and lenses. And aside from this, we also have this PCTFE or what we call polychloro-trifluoroethylene. So magamit na to siya sa mga seals, mga valves o mga transparency films. Like kanang makita na to sa tong tumbler na siya puti nga seal, makita na to para dili mo agas ang water mo na siya example sa kaning PCTFE. And lastly, we have this Teflon or PTFE, or which is also known as polytetrafluoroethylene, which is widely known for its use in non-stick cookware sa mga kaha bitaw nga non-stick kana kung gamit nila ana kay kani nga material kani nga thermoplastic which is the polytetrafluoroethylene. Familiar ba mo anang naa sa picture sa kaning PTFE? Kaila mo ana? Kaila mo wala?
Yes, kaila.
Ito na be.
Teflon.
Oh, very good. So, kana siya Teflon, gamiton sa na siya as a seal. So, kanang Teflon is example na siya sa kana nga thermoplastic. So, next, now that we've discussed the simple addition thermoplastics, ari na punta sa complex thermoplastics. So, complex thermoplastics are plastics with stronger and more advanced structure compared sa mga regular plastics lang. These are used in special applications where materials need to be very strong, long-lasting, and dapat able siya makahandle sa heat. So, na siya heat resistance and dapat di siya mo break. So, examples of this are polyoxomethylene or POM. Kani siya nga thermoplastic, gigamit na siya mostly sa mga plumbing fixtures, pans, bearings, gears, and fan blades. So, kani kay bearings, ato yung maingon nga hard jud ni siya, gahi jud ni siya nga pagka-plastic. Another example is polyamide or PA, or also known as nylon. So, kita naman jud tag nylon no, nagakupot naman jud tag nylon. So what we can kuan is gahi jud na ang nylon, although plastic siya but it is strong and firm jud, so it's made of polyamide. Next example is polyester or PET. This is commonly used in fibers, mga photographic films, recording tapes, mga boil-in bag containers, and beverage containers. So, kanay makita na to sa mga camera films or mga photographic films. Ang kanang iyang film niya is made up of polyester. Next, we also have polycarbonate or PC. So, this one, we can find this in applications sa mga electrical and appliances sa house, sa itong mga balay. Inaasad din siya makita na to sa mga automotive components sa football helmets. Kita mo na football helmets nga gahi to protect sa kanang from the ball. Nasad din siya yung mga sa returnable bottles o sa mga compact disc or CDs. Another example is polyetherterketon or PEK, PEEK. So this is known for its high temperature electrical insulation and protective coatings. So na din siya electric resistance. Next is we also have polyphenylene sulfide or PPS. This one is used for coatings, fluid handling components, electronic parts, and even sa mga hair dryer components. So as you can see sa image, makita jud nimo ang kuan sa material. Next is polyether sulfone, or commonly known as PES. It is commonly found in electrical components, coffee makers, hair dryers, and microwave oven parts. And lastly is the polyamide imide or PAI. It is used in electronic components as well as sa mga aerospace and automotive applications tungod kay nani siya electric resistance or napud siya heat resistance, dili siya dali madaot unlike sa mga regular plastics lang. So kaning in summary, ang kaning addition thermoplastics are kanang plastics nga magamit nato or makita nato everyday. While ang complex thermoplastics kay muna siyang maka-handle jud sa mga tough conditions bisag under sa heat. So next, let's tackle sa ilang properties sa mga thermoplastics. So as you can see here, nadri ang mga examples sa mga thermoplastics and their tensile strength, elongation, elastic modulus, density, and ilang izod impact. So we can see here nga ang strongest plastic jud kay ang PEEK, ang polyamide o ang polyamide imide. Sila ang pinaka-high nga tensile strength. So which means nga kani jud ang mostly gigamit sa mga engineering na mga applications kay they are the strongest one. On the other hand, ang mga weakest nga plastics is ang example ani kay kaning low density nga polyethylene. So it means nga since low man yang tensile strength, it means nga soft na siya and flexible. Mao ni siyang ang kaning low density polyethylene is taas iyang flexibility or yang percentage sa iyang elongation. So it means nga this can stretch a lot before sa iyang breaking point. And next, pangitaon na to ang least flexible or most brittle materials sa kaning thermoplastics. So, ang material nga most brittle or kaning gamay iyang percent of elongation, which means kung imong stretch dali ra siya mabuak kay ang acrylic ug ang polystyrene. So, next is ang elastic modulus or ang stiffness sa thermoplastics. So, ang pinaka-stiff na plastic is ang PEEK, ang PI, ang PES o ang POM. Muna siyang pinaka-stiff gyud nga plastic. Dili siya dali ma-bend if naay high nga unsa man high force or kusog nga force ang imong ikuan, dili siya dali jud ma-bend. And the least stiff or pinaka-stiff nga material na makita here sa chart is ang polyethylene. Especially po ang kaning low density polyethylene ug ang polypropylene. So kani siya nga thermoplastics, soft ni siya and dali ra siya ma-bend. Next is ang density. So density, makita na to diri ang heaviest plastic sa chart is ang PTFE or ang kaning Teflon o kaning polychloro trifluoroethylene. Okay, they have higher density which makes them heavier for their size. And lastly is ilang izod impact. So kaning for impact resistance, the best performers jud aning ultra high molecular weight is ang polyethylene ug ang polycarbonate. Sila jud ang naay high diri og izod impact na atong magkita sa chart. So this means nga kani nga material is tough and maka-absorb siya og sudden forces nga dili siya makrack or di siya ma-break. And the least or ang pinaka-poor og isod impact, ang pinaka-poor og impact resistance is ang polystyrene and ang acrylic, which means nga kani nga material is dali siya mabuak, easy to break siya and brittle. So now let's move forward sa structure property relationships in thermoplastics. So before we look at each factor, ato say understand what structure property really means. So structure property refers to the idea that the properties of a material, like its strength, flexibility, or melting point, depends on its structure. So in simple words, ang polymer is built, the way a polymer is built affects how it behaves. So kung ang structure mausab, ang properties mausab sad. Excuse me. So first, let's talk about the degree of polymerization as discussed by Mr. Villamor. So degree of polymerization simply means how long the polymer chain is or how many repeating units it has. So when the chain is longer, the material becomes stronger. So kung taas kuno ang chain, mas strong siya. And on the other hand, when the chain is short, it means the plastic becomes weaker and softer. So, di ba muna ang gidiscuss ni Mr. Villamor earlier? So, next we have the side effects. So, effect of the side groups rather. So, these are like small branches attached to the main polymer chain. So, if the side groups are big, they block the chains from sliding. So which, if mablock niya ang change from sliding, it makes the plastic stronger but less flexible. On the other hand, if the side groups are small, the chains move more freely. So since gamay man siya, makamove siya freely, which makes the material softer and more flexible. Next, we also have the crystallization and deformation. So polymers can have two areas, which is the crystalline regions where chains are neatly lined up, and the amorphous regions where the chains are messy and random. So if ang polymer na siya high crystallinity, it becomes stiff, strong, and has higher melting point. And however, if low iyang crystallinity, it becomes more flexible and rubbery. So now let's move on to tacticity. So tacticity is how the side groups are arranged along a polymer chain. So naay three types of tacticity, which is isotactic, syndiotactic, and atactic. So first, in isotactic polymers, all side groups are on the same side. So the chains are packed well and are crystalline. So kung maingon tag crystalline, di ba mo na siya ang naka-arrange ang iyang mga chains. Next is, in syndiotactic polymers, the side groups alternate size. So magpuli-puli sila, mag-alternate, which also makes them crystalline. So crystalline gyapon ni siya ang isotactic o syndiotactic. They are both crystallines. While on the other hand, ang atactic is an amorphous because kaning atactic polymers kay random siya, randomized. So ilang chains don't pack well and are random, nagkatag siya. So muna gitawag og amorphous. And next we have the copolymers. So copolymers are made by combining two or more different monomers, which allows us to create materials with better or special properties, such as more flexibility, strength, or resistant to heat and chemicals. So there are several ways to arrange copolymers. First, we have the alternating polymers. So as you can see sa figure, iyang pattern niya kay puli-puli. For example, kaning yellow, blue, then yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue. So, iyang arrangement niya is puli-puli. It takes turn. Next, on the random monomers, ang monomers are arranged in no specific order. So, katag-katag ra siya, randomized ra yung pag-arrange. While ang block monomers are long sections of one monomer followed by long sections of another. So, nani siya pattern for like example, tulo ka yellow, then blue na po, bisag pila ka number sa blue, then yellow na po sunod, then blue, yellow, blue. Pero dili siya tagsa-tagsa nga monomers. Na siya by group siya, by group, as you can see sa figure. And lastly is the grafted monomers. It is a main chain of one monomer with side branches. So kaning grafted monomers na siya branch sa kilid, mo siya na mga roots nga ni turok sa kilid. Muna ang gitawag nga grafted monomers. So next, we have liquid crystalline polymers. So these are special polymers whose chains stay very ordered and stiff even when melted. So because of this, they have high strength, excellent heat resistance, and they keep their shape very well. So kaning liquid crystalline polymers is mostly used sa mga electronics and advanced machinery. And lastly, we have the blending and alloying. So blending or alloying is simply mixing two different plastics together without forming new chemical bonds. So this is done. So gibuhat ni siya ang pag-blend sa two materials para ma-improve na to ang toughness, flexibility, and processing behavior sa usa ka material. It allows cheaper plastics to perform like more expensive one. So overall, kaning blending, it can give us the best features of different polymers by mixing them physically. So mura po ni siya trial and error sa pag-record sa mga yang result para makita na to og asa joy pinaka the best nga material nga ang mabuhat na to while mixing. So now that we've discussed how the structure of polymers affects their properties, let's move on to another important factor, which is temperature. So let's start by looking at this figure on the left side. This figure shows how temperature affects thermoplastics. So at high temperature, kaning naa diri sa taas, kaning naa sa upper part, that's what we call the melting point. Kaning kita mo ang melting temperature. So at high temperatures above the melting point, the polymer chains move freely. So ang kaning polymers diri sa taas, they move freely and behaves like a liquid. So kay dali because they move freely, dali ra ni siya ma-shape og ma-process since ilang chains niya kay kuan man lagyo man siya, di man siya sigkit. So next, as the temperature drops, the chains lose their ability to move freely. Since kay niubos man ang temperature, it's either mahimo siyang amorphous solid or crystalline solid. So kaning amorphous solid, mo ni siya ang chains niya kay tangle sila but can still move under stress. So ang kaning amorphous is ang material niya is soft and flexible. While ang kaning crystalline solid, since ang chains niya is packed up man, so it makes the material stiff and strong. So amorphous again kay soft and flexible, while the crystalline kay stiff and strong. And finally, below the glass transition temperature is kaning glassy. These chains can only move locally, so making the polymer glassy, hard, and brittle. So it means dali ra mabuak. So next, we have the degradation temperature. So degradation temperature is the maximum temperature a polymer can withstand. before it starts to chemically break down, losing strength, stiffness, and other important properties. And at the other side, naasa tayo rigid state. As we can see sa figure, rigid state kanina sa pinakataas, this occurs at low temperatures. So here, the polymer, so sa kaninga state, ang polymer is hard, stiff, and resist deformation. So ang kaning material nga naa sa rigid state is mechanically strong pero dili siya flexible. And next, as the temperature rises, polymers pass through two intermediate stages, which is the rubbery and leathery state. So first, leathery state. So in the leathery state, just above the glass transition temperature, the polymer is soft and can bend slightly. So as you can see here sa leathery, saka na sa temperature, ang material is soft and mabend na siya, as you can see po sa graph. While in the rubbery state, further heating allows the chains to move more freely, making the polymer more stretchable. So there is a rubbery, ang material kay stretchable na siya or flexible na siya. So last, as polymers warm up na siya, they go from hard, then to leathery, then to rubbery, and lastly is ang liquid or ang viscous. So at very high temperature, sa pinakainit na dyan na temperature, polymers behave like liquid or viscous materials, which means nga ilang chains, they move freely and their forces between them weaken. So magka-weak siya. And now, let's move on to the next. Ay muna ako na-discuss earlier. Next, we have the glassy states. Now, this graph, as we can see in the right side, shows how a polymer's density changes as it is heated. So there are three types of polymers. Again, we have the crystalline, semi-crystalline, and the glass. So on the left, below sa glass transition temperature, ang polymer kay hard and glassy. Pero as we pass through the glass transition temperature, mo soften na siya ang material and it behaves like an undercooled liquid. Next, so ang kuha na ning graph diri kay is if ang temperature mo increase, ang density niya kay mo decrease. And lastly, we have the measuring crystallinity in polymers. So crystallinity tells us how ordered the polymer chains are, and it strongly affects the polymer behavior. So polymer with high crystallinity are usually stronger and stiffer. So muna akong giingon ganina na if high ang crystallinity, ang material will be stronger and stiffer. But if low or less ang crystallinity, then ang material will be weaker and dali siya ma-bend. So crystallinity can be calculated using the formula percentage crystallinity equals P sub C times P, or P, which means density minus density sub A over density times density sub C minus density sub A times 100, where P is the measured density of polymer and P sub A is the density of amorphous polymer and P sub C is the density of completely crystalline polymer. So now let's try solving a problem. So get your calculator and try to solve with me. Okay, so problem number 1. If you have a polyethylene sample with a percent crystallinity of 45.3% with an amorphous density of 6.796 gram per cubic centimeter and a crystalline density of 8.214 gram per cubic centimeter, determine the mass of the specimen if the polymer is in a 75 cubic centimeter container. So here we have the given na ang crystallinity percent is 45.3, where atong density sub A is 6.796, atong density sub C is 8.214, and the volume is, we are given volume 75 cubic centimeters. So try solving for that density. So just input the given here in the formula and comment, or I will just call out your name. Nana mo answer? Ready na mo? Okay, Sean Villamor, pilay mo answer.
Processing. Wait. Go process po.
Okay. What about
Okay.
you, Mr. Rodrigo?
7.37.
Okay. Yung mga Mr. Rodrigo,
Processing pa.
processing pasad. What about si Miss Villacruzes? Processing pasad. Okay, so
7.37.
okay, so same mo answer. Let's see if sakto ba lang yung answer. Wow. Clap for yourself, guys. So, sakto. So, next. Do you think mo na ni ang final answer? Do you think
Dili.
so? Why? Unsa may gipangita?
Kaya naka-shade po. Lang.
Tama ka dyan.
Kaya ang ginapangita kay ang mass.
Okay, very good. So, pilay nakuha niyo nga value sa mass. Try to solve it. Given the formula of density is volume over mass. So, mass equals density times volume. I know. Oh. Sige, go. Rodrigo, Mr. Rodrigo, pila answer niyo sa mass.
10.7.
75.
Okay, so let's see.
10.18.
Si 10.18.
Ay!
Okay, so ang answer is 552.75.
Ay,
Sakto ba? Am I right?
Sakta.
Okay.
Sakta. Yan, nasayop ko input.
So that is all for my subtopics. Let me call on Miss Villacruzes to continue. Thank you.
Hey guys, good afternoon. So I will be the one who discuss the mechanical properties of thermoplastics. Next, please. So this is the mechanical properties of thermoplastics. One is the tensile strength. So it refers to how strong the plastic is when pulled. It measures the maximum stress a material can withstand before breaking. So the example ani niya kay kani siyang nylon and ABS have tensile strength, meaning they can resist pulling forces better than the polyethylene. So usually has lower tensile strength, so mas dali siya mas stretch. So the second is elastic modulus. So it measures how stiff or rigid a material is. Higher modulus means the material does not bend easily. So the example is the polycarbonate and PVC. The third is the impact strength. It shows how well the material can absorb sudden force or shock without breaking. So, ang example ano niya guys, ang polycarbonate has very high impact strengths. So, mas lisod siya mabali bisan mahulog than the acrylic. On the other hand, looks strong but break easily upon impact. So, the fourth is hardness. So, it measures how resistant the plastic surface is to scratching or indentation. Harder materials are less likely to get scratched. Example is the nylon and acrylic have relatively good hardness, so they did not get scratched easily. Next, please. Creep resistant. Creep resistance is the ability of a plastic to maintain shape under constant load over time. So thermoplastic generally deform more easily than metals under long-term stress. So, next is the fatigue strength. Fatigue strength is the ability to withstand repeated or cyclic load without failure. It is important for parts that move constantly such as gear or hinge. Next is a flexural strength. Flexural strength measures how well a material resists bending. Plastic with high flexural strength can endure bending forces without cracking. So, example niya kay kaning polycarbonate, nylon, and acrylic. And the next is toughness. Toughness is the ability to absorb energy and resist fracture. It combines strength and ductility, allowing a material to deform before breaking. Next, please. Next is the ductility. It refers to the ability to to stretch or bend without breaking. So ductile is plastic forms deform easily while brittle plastic break with little deformation. And the next is density. Density is the mass per unit volume. Thermoplastic are generally lightweight, which is advantageous for application requiring low weight while maintaining adequate strength. And the next is thermal effect on mechanical properties. So, ang temperature rises when strength decreases, stiffness decreases, or ductility increases. Next, please. So, what are the elastomers? Elastomers are rubbery materials made of long, flexible polymer chains. These chains are lightly cross-linked, allowing the material to stretch and then snap back. Next please. So this is the example of the elastomers. First is the natural rubber. So the natural rubber is a flexible, strong elastomer obtained from rubber trees, known for high elasticity and resilience. The next is styrene butadiene rubber. A synthetic rubber commonly used in tires, offers good abrasion resistance and aging stability. Next is a silicone rubber. Silicone rubber heat resistant and flexible, while widely used in medical devices, cookware, and electrical installations. And the next is the neoprene. Neoprene is a durable synthetic rubber resistant to oils, chemicals, and weather, used in wetsuits and industrial products. And the next is the polyurethane polyurethane rubber, a very tough and abrasion resistant, used in wheels, seals, and high stress applications. And the next is the nitrile rubber, a resistance to oils and foils, often used in gloves, gaskets, and automotive parts. Next, please. So this is our the application of elastomers. First is that tires made from strong elastomer that provide good grip, flexibility, and durability in the road. And next is the seals and gaskets. Rubber materials are used to prevent leaks by creating tight, flexible seals between parts. And the third is our rubber bands, made from stretchy elastomers that allow them to extend and return to their original shape. And the fourth is shock absorbers, use elastomers components to absorb vibration and reduce impact, making machines and vehicles smoother. The next is a medical silicone items. Silicone rubber is used for medical tools and implants because it is safe, flexible, and resistant to heat. The next and last is wire insulations. Rubber and silicone are used to cover electrical wires, protecting them from heat, moisture, and electrical shock. Next, please. So, thermosetting polymers. Next, please. Thermosetting polymers are plastics that permanently harden from malleable liquid or solid state through an irreversible chemical reaction called curing, which is initiated by heat, pressure, or catalyst. This curing process creates a rigid, cross-linked molecular structure that cannot be melted or reshaped, making thermosets strong and heat-resistant, but also non-recyclable in the traditional sense. Next, please. So this are the examples of thermosetting polymers. First is the epoxy. So epoxy is a strong, heat-resistant polymer, often used as an adhesive and for coatings because it forms hard, durable surface once cured. Second is a phenol formaldehyde. It's one of the earliest plastic, very hard, heat-resistant, and used in electrical parts, kitchenware handles, and brake pads. And the third is a polyester. Polyester is used in fiberglass products, boat-hulls, and automotive parts become rigid and strong after curing. The fourth is silicone. Silicone is a flexible and heat stable, commonly used in molds, cookware, medical devices, and sealants. And the fifth is a urea formaldehyde, a strong rigid resin used in adhesive for plywood, particle board, and electrical fittings due to its hardness and good insulating properties. Next is vulcanized rubber. Rubber that has been chemically cross-linked easily with sulfur to become a stronger, more durable, and heat-resistant, used in tires, shoe soles, and industrial components. Next. That's all. Thank you, guys.
So thank you for that introduction, Miss Villacrosses. And now I want you to ask something interesting. Raise your hand if you use glue, tape, stickers, or anything sticky that is in the past few weeks. Okay, Mr. Villamor raised his hand. Now, here's another question. Did you know that the glue in your notebook, the tape in the package, the super glue that fixes broken items, and even the adhesives used inside your phone all rely on polymers working at microscopic level. Now, this portion is all about discovering the science behind the sticky materials, which we call the adhesives, and later, how the polymers are shaped and recycled through different processes. Now, let's dig deeper. What is an adhesive is? This okay. Adhesives are the polymer-based substances used to bond metals, plastics, ceramics, composites, and other materials in structural and non-structural application. But did you know, before adhesives, structures relied on bolts, welding, or nails. But today, high performance adhesives allow lighter planes, safer cars, flexible electronics, and strong wooden furniture without visible fastener. Now that we know what adhesive generally are, let's move on into the first category of adhesives, that those that work through chemical reaction. Next slide, please. Next. Okay, the first one or the first classification of adhesive is are the chemically reactive adhesives. And these are the adhesives that cure through chemical reaction and form strong permanent bonds. And many come in one or two component systems that react when mixed. And do you know once these adhesives cure, they resist heat, chemicals, and mechanical forces, making them ideal for aerospace parts and automobile components, and also in their electronics. And the common examples are the epoxy, as you can see in the image presented in the presentation. And next is the polyurethane. And next is the silicone and phenolic adhesives and anaerobic adhesives. And from adhesives that react chemically, let's now shift to those who are simply dry or evaporate. And next is the evaporation or diffusion adhesives. And these adhesives rely on evaporation of water or solvent, leaving behind a polymer film that bonds the surface. And another information for this kind of adhesives, that these are commonly used in woodworking, paper products, carpentry, and arts. And some of the water-based versions are safer and more eco-friendly. And the common examples of these adhesives are the PVA, the white glue, as you can use in your outputs in your projects. And another one is the rubber cement, as you can see in the image presented. And this kind of adhesives was most commonly used in arts and office uses. And lastly is acrylic latex adhesives, which used in packaging all purpose. So next one is after the adhesives that dry, let's move on to those that melt and solidify and quickly. And these are the hot melt adhesives. So the hot melt adhesives are the thermoplastic adhesives that melt when heated and harden upon cooling to form strong bands quickly. And also they are widely used in high-speed manufacturing because they set within seconds, perfect for packaging, textiles, and electronics. And most common examples of these adhesives are the EVA glue sticks, as you can see in the image presented, and also the polyamide and polyester hot melts. And lastly is the fusible webs. So these kind of adhesives are mostly I also mostly commonly used in projects and outputs in schools and other activities. Now let's look at the adhesives that bond instantly without heat or solvents. Next slide, please. And this kind of adhesives is the pressure sensitive adhesives, are also known as the PSA. So PSAs are elastomer based adhesives that bond instantly to surfaces with light pressure without heat or solvent activation. So these adhesives bond with just light pressure, no heat or chemical reaction required. And also, these are formulated to stick instantly but can be designed to be removable, repositionable, or permanent. And the common examples are the packaging tapes, the acrylic PSA, and the rubber based PSA, the medical grade PSA that can be found in bandages and patches. From everyday tapes, we move to specialized adhesives that conduct electricity or heat. Next slide, please. So these are the conductive adhesives. So these adhesives contain metallic or ceramic fillers that enable electrical or thermal conductivity while providing mechanical bonding. So this kind of adhesives contain metallic or ceramic fillers that allow electrical or thermal conductivity. And also they are essential in electronics manufacturing when soldering or cannot be used, for example, joining delicate components, sensors, or chips. So most common examples of these adhesives are silver filled epoxy, which is used for microelectronics, which can be found in your computers, in your laptops, in your cell phones. And also there is copper filled adhesives, which is used for circuit repair. And lastly, there is boron nitride or alumina adhesives, which is used for thermally conductive but electro insulating. Next, let's explore more adhesives types used in everyday life and industry. Now, there is a cyanoacrylate, or also known as super glue. So many of us have known this kind of adhesive, which we use in our in putting up our damaged shoes rather, or our damaged materials. So these adhesives cure instantly by reacting with moisture in the air. And also they create very strong bands on hard materials, but also can also stick skin instantly because skin has moisture. So as you can see in the image presented, there is a super glue, and also this kind of adhesive is used for fast curing na mga damages or mga broken materials. And also, next is the contact adhesives. And these bonds or this kind of adhesives bond surfaces when adhesive is applied to both sides, allowed to dry, then join the pressure. And also they are extremely strong and used for laminates, shoemaking, bags, and upholstery. And this kind of adhesives are used commonly um in uh in making projects in wood in and commonly and specifically in woodworking. And next one is the natural or the bioadhesives. Next slide, please. Okay, now these are the natural adhesives. So these adhesives use plant or animal-based polymers for eco-friendly bonding, mainly in paper, packaging, and woodworking. So the common examples for this type of adhesives are the natural resins that can be found in trees, in forests, or in even in a simple when it is heated. So most adhesives, natural adhesives are can be used when heated. So now that we have covered adhesives, let's move to how polymers are processed into actual products. So this is the polymer processing and recycling. So what is a polymer processing? So polymer processing includes a wide range, various techniques such as molding, extrusion, and fiber production that shape thermoplastics, thermosets, and elastomers into usable products. So the first type of polymer processing is, next slide please, extrusion. So extrusion forces heated thermoplastic through a die to continuously form shapes such as pipes, sheets, films, and cable coatings. So the common result or materials or products that is used for this or that is mga products na magawas and ani na polymer process are the PVC, and the polyethylene films. And next one is the blow molding. So blow molding expands a heated plastic preform or apparition with air pressure to form hollow products. So these are the steps in blow molding. So heated plastic is extruded into hollow tube, which is called the parison, and the mold closes. The parison is gripped in place. Now the compressed air is blown into the parison, which inflates, and the parison fills mold, and the product is streamed and removed from mold. And lastly, finished product ready for next production stage. And next type of polymer process is injection molding. So injection molding pushes molten thermoplastic into closed molds rather, to create detailed and complex shapes. And most of these products of this are I most ay mo ni ang gigamit sa injection molding because it is fast, efficient, and common in toys, caps, and gears. So mo ni mga mostly gamiton sa mga factories para mag-produce og mga products, which is called injection molding. So next one is, next slide please. So the next one is the thermoforming. So thermoforming heats a plastic sheet until pliable and forms it over a mold using a vacuum or pressure. As you can see in the diagram presented, the heated plastic is being put in a positive mold, and the vacuum is drawn to form or to mold a product. And the next type of polymer process is calendering. Calendering squeezes molten polymer between patterned rollers to produce continuous sheets or films. So Moni, as you can see in the diagram na gi-present, ang ang kaning kuan polymer na bago pang molten or init pa jud kaayo is being kuan rolled siya sa mga rollers. And murag nakita amsad mo ani sa mga FB Reels or sa TikTok, kabantay mo ng mga cables or mga kable na gipa or mga metal sheets na gipang kuan sa rollers kay para mo flatten siya. So mao na ang process na tawagan niya is the calendering. So the next one is spinning. So spinning forces molten polymer through tiny holes, or also called as spinnerets, to produce fibers, filaments, and yarns. So kaba mo anong kuan katong spindler kato ganing gigamit sa movie sa Maleficent. So mora ni siya na style. Like ang iyahang molten polymer is agi siya sa mga tiny holes. As you can see in the diagram, niya gipa-cool siya, dayon gipa-form siya og mga fibers to form yarns, filaments, to be a usable products. So the next one is casting. So this type of polymer process is pours liquid polymer into a mold where it cools and solidifies into thick or thin sheet product. So many of us have known this type of polymer processing naman said no kay kuan nakabound sad ni sa mga movies, especially sa katong mga ancient times na maoy mostly lang gamiton ani para magkuan sa mga swords or sa mga anything metal para makahimo siya sa mga usable products. So as you can see in the diagram, there is a runner and the locating pin, the metal mold, which is the most important, and the product is the casting product. And next is the compression molding. So compression molding presses ang cured thermoset polymers in heated molds to shape and cross link them simultaneously. So as you can see in the title itself or sa tawag niya compression. So i-compress siya or i-process siya ang mga polymers or ang mga molten polymers para maka-form siya og shape. So as you can see in the diagram, there is an movable molded half and also a charge and the lower fixed mold hole and the ejector pin. And the next type of polymer processing is the transfer molding. So the transfer molding preheats a thermostat polymer, then injects it into a mold cavity for forming and cross-linking. So as you can see in the diagram, a polymer or what's the tawag ani? Ang thermoset polymer rather is heated or preheat siya. Kung dili kay siya gimolten kay para ma-take shape siya. And as you can see in the diagram na siya mold cavity. So same ra siya sa casting but gi-transfer siya. So ang yalang tawag is transfer molding kay gi-cross-link sad siya. And ang kaning ejector pin kay mausad niya ang gamiton kay para makuha ang molded part. So the next type of polymer processing is the next slide, please. So this type of polymer processing is reaction injection molding, or also known as RIM. So RIM injects liquid thermosetting resins into a mold where they react and cure into a finished product. So as you can see in the diagram, there are two monomers that is being injected into the RIM mix head. And there's also an additives to form this molded part or molded product. So ang kuan na sa reaction injection molding is nagkuan sila sa duha ka monomer ila i-inject or inject both and mag-react ra ang each monomers to each other to form or to form a molded product. So as you can see in the diagram, there is high pressure, high speed, and trigeminous mixing. So mo dira dapita ang pagkuan, naadra ang reaction part na ang duha ka monomer is nag-react to each other with the help of a high pressure and high speed to form a molded product. So the last one is the foaming processes. So foaming expands polymer beads using blowing agents to create lightweight, low density materials. So kaning mga foam is katong ng mga styrofoam, mga unsa pa mga matawag niyo na foam. Kuan, bisag ang kanang sa kanang higdaan nato. Ang mga beds gamit na ana is ang foaming, ang gigamit sa paghimo ana is ang foaming processes. So as you can see in the diagram, the polymer phase is being added with the blowing agents and the two phases system, and after that the diffusion solubility, then the one phase, then after that is the nucleation rather, and the nucleation density and then until it is growth, until it is growing, until it expands in volume, and then stabilize, and until it is structurized or the cell is structurized. And that's is the finished product of the foaming process or polymer processing. And after shaping polymers or this kind of polymer processing, we must also consider how we manage waste, which brings us to polymer recycling. Next slide, please. So plastic recycling or polymer recycling reprocesses scraps and post-consumer thermoplastics into reusable materials, while thermosets and elastomers are repurposed chemically due to reversible cross-linking. So it is understandable naman sa meaning, ang polymer recycling is very essential man gyud sa atoa is kay para mag-minimize siya sa mga waste ug dili sad masayang ang mga polymer na atong gipanggamit sa atong everyday life, di ba? So maora ni mostly ang gamit sa polymer or ang mga processes rather sa polymer recycling. So after the new product is produced, it becomes a waste. Then it transports to MRF, then to the recycling center, then it is sorted, then after sorted, it is shredded, washed, and it is washed, and it will undergo another polymer processing, which can be any of those polymer processes. So it can be melting or reorganization, and after that, it will be a new product. So thank you for listening for our discussion today, and I hope you learn a lot from our discussion and presentation. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.